So, we're back. Hello there, welcome back to Max's Writing Advice Q&A. In tonight's episode, I have a selection of questions randomly picked by a random number generator and sent by viewers just like you. As always, if you have a question you would like to send my way, leave it in the comments down below. Every week, questions are chosen randomly, so your question is as likely to be picked as anyone else's. Today, we'll be talking about picking a setting, soft plots, and writing motivation. But before I go anywhere, allow me to give you the formal disclaimer, as always, and remind you that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who looks a little bit, or rather precisely like this. Alright nerds, let's do this. First question goes a little bit like this. How do you choose between a completely made-up world and the real world, when the story itself does not demand for one or the other? I am worried that creating a new world would put a strain on the reader and may even turn them off entirely. On the other hand, if I was to set up my story in the real world, I'm afraid I would not be able to portray it accurately. What do you think? 3 minutes on the clock, get set, go! Alright, first off, I particularly disagree with the idea that creating a new world may put strain on the reader and even turn them off. I feel that if someone's picking up the book and they know that it's fiction and they read the back of the book, so I assume they know what they're reading, they would be in for whatever you're selling them, right? And really, like, when people are reading a book, we all assume that it's all, you know, made up. So you displace your mind already into a state of accepting whatever is going to be thrown at you, right? So I don't think it's a problem. That being said, talking about real locations, I personally feel that it's outright impossible to portray the world accurately or to be realistic, mostly because reality is based in perception, the time that you live in. I think I've been saying that for like 4 years, because your view in the world, particularly the place that you are in, the community that you're part of, the time that you're part in, affects how you view the world. So the idea of like not being able to portray a place or a city or a town realistically I think it's a little bit faulty. And I know where this fear comes from. This fear comes from the idea of someone showing up, this magical person that always appears to know exactly what you're worried about or you're insecure about, and they show up and they're all like, hey, you actually got this place wrong. First off, this person doesn't exist, and most importantly, like, their perception of the world is their perception of the world. So, like, I particularly feel when it comes to real-life locations, such as, let's say, setting your story in New York City, if you do your research and you don't use shortcuts and you try to make it as authentic as possible, no one's gonna complain. That's just how I feel about that, though. Now, looking at your question and what the things that you offered, I personally feel that if the story does not require a particular setting, and in that case, I most definitely believe that it falls upon you as the writer to select what you think would make the story much more fun, what would make the story not only, you know, better, but also will make the writing process more fun for you. Because when you're interested in the writing process, the writing is a hell of a lot easier. So as always, my advice falls down to make it fun. Pick whichever one seems the most fun to you. Don't focus on, but what are the readers gonna think? Or can I make it realistic? Worry not about any of those things, okay? Make it fun. Do your work if you need to do research. Look into things if you have to. Don't do shortcuts. But please, 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 above all else, have fun, okay? Make it fun. Whatever is the most fun, go with that option, okay? And now for the second question of the day, goes a little bit like this. How do I add subplots to my writing? I have been hearing stuff that I need them, but I can't think of any. Any advice? Well, right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you right now that people all over your life are gonna be telling you what you should do or what you need to do. That's pretty much what commercials are always doing. They create a need for things. It's like, hey, are you self-conscious about this? Well, for $9.99 you can fix that. People are always going to tell you what you need to do. And unless it's someone for whom you reached out for advice, I would urge you to not take it too seriously. But let's take it at face value. If someone told you that your story needed a soft plot for whatever reason, my advice is as follows. If you really want to add one and you think the story would benefit, the keyword here being benefit from it, then what I think you should do is consider first and foremost the secondary characters in your story. Because a soft plot is a story within a story. Sometimes it's intertwined, So it advances when the main plot advances, and sometimes it doesn't. But ultimately, what you want to do is look at one character who maybe their story can be relevant to the plot, or a thread in the story that is not entirely followed upon because it's not immediate to the plot. Consider them, look at them, go, hey, would the story be better if I talked a little bit about this, and would it be fun to actually write? If the answer to both of those questions is yes, then you have most definitely a very interesting soft plot in your hands. Again though, I would like to urge you to consider this only if you really want to add it, and only if you think it would benefit the story, because again, people are going to tell you that your story needs X and Y, and if you want your story to sell, it needs to have this and that. They're always going to tell you that. There will always be something else you should probably, maybe, possibly add, but you got to be true to the story, right? If it makes the story better, consider it. If it doesn't, ignore it. Simple as that. And now for the final question of the day. We have had really casual answers, so it's time for a really serious question. It goes a little bit like this. What do you do when you feel completely defeated in your writing? Like, you'll never get anywhere and you just want to give up? And let's take it from the top. There are a bunch of things I want to say. First and foremost, there's a really good speech by Jim Carrey. You can think whatever you want of the man, but he has a really nice speech, and I'll give you the gist of it. He's giving it before a group of graduating students. And in it, he talks about the funniest person he ever knew, which was his father. And he said that his father wanted to be a comedian, but he thought that being a comedian would never put food on the table, so instead he became an accountant. And after 20 years of working at that business and dedicating his life and soul and time to it, he was laid off with a bunch of other people. And Jim Carrey talks about the idea of you can put aside the things you want to do, you can put your dreams second, you can stop your dreams to do something else, and you can still fail. So he recommends that instead, you should most likely do the things you want to do. As for another piece of advice, there's a really good quote that I like, and the quote was a little bit like this. And I'm paraphrasing, I apologize, I don't have it at hand. And it's a quote by a writer, and it goes along the lines of, I write for myself, I publish for money. And I actually really like that quote. It's kind of one of those quotes that I kind of live by, because I write for myself. I write because I enjoy it, and I write because I'm writing the stories that I wish I was reading, which is what a lot of writers do. And then I just publish them because I've already put in the work. I may as well actually sell them, right? That's why I don't really worry too much about things like markets and, demographics and stuff like that. I create content, and the history of the world is that people make content and someone out there is going to be interested in it. Simple as that. If you're worried that you're not going to get anywhere, well, I would like to first remind you and give you a little bit of insight and tell you that everyone feels like that. Everyone feels like that at one point, so you're not the only one. You're not the only one who feels this way, and I would like to urge you to look up the memoirs of your favorite people, read them, and learn that they went through the same things you did. All that matters is just pushing through. If you would like a recommendation, I recommend Stephen King's On Writing. If you would like an even mega better recommendation, in the description below, you will find the link to his audiobook. I recommend you listen to that. If you have a few monies to spend, pick it up. He reads the audiobook himself, and he talks about his writing journey, where he got to where he was. I love that book. And the fact that he reads it puts a lot more emotion to the things that he's saying. I really appreciate that. Every time that I feel down about my writing, I listen to that audiobook from the beginning to end. Lots of good advice, and he talks about his own journey. I also recommend, if you need some more extra inspirational stuffs, I recommend Neil Gaiman's speech, Make Good Art. That is probably the best 30 minutes that you could ever spend anywhere on YouTube, and I'm not even kidding about that. What I want to get at with this is that you're not alone with this. Everyone feels like that, and that's not to diminish the way that you're feeling it, but instead of making you feel that you don't have any options, you have plenty of options. You just have to keep moving forward. I'm going to tell you the recipe to success, and it's a recipe that nobody likes to hear because it's not easy, but the recipe for success in the world that we live in right now. Because the recipe for success as a writer 10 years ago is way different, but it has changed and it's no longer applicable. The recipe is this: make stuff, tell people that you made stuff, and keep making it. That's it. That is the recipe for success. Write books, tell the world that you did, maybe share them with the world, and keep making stuff. It's as simple as that. That is literally not only for writing, but also a lot of created content on YouTube and other platforms like Tumblr and stuff like that. It's literally, that's it. People made stuff, they showed the world, because if you don't tell anybody, how are they gonna know? You put it out there in the world and keep making stuff. It's really as simple as that. And I know that, I hope that, ever since you sent this question, you've been feeling better, or you got back into writing. For me, at least my personal advice, because I've been giving you other people's advice, focus on you. Write the stuff you want to read, not because you want to get published, because you can try to write a book that gets published and it'll still get rejected. You might as well just write what you want to read. Am I right? At least that's how I feel about it. Create the stories that you like, that inspire you, that make you want to get up in the morning and write. Okay? Do it for you. Not for the world, not for fame, not for money. For you. Okay? Do it for you. And with that serious question out of the way, that's another writing advice Q&A for the books. For the time being though, I want to thank you for watching. I hope that if anything I gave you another point of view. The last question was really serious. I hope that it helps. Writing, like making webcomics, like making videos on YouTube, can be really disheartening, especially when you think that things should move at a particular pace and then they don't. But ultimately, the key to success in any of these fields is to make stuff, share it with the world, tell them that you did it, and keep making stuff. It's as simple as that, okay? I hope these things have helped. For the time being, if you have questions that you would like to send my way, please do so in the comments down below. Every week, questions are chosen randomly. Again, for the time being, if you have thoughts on the questions that were answered today, or your very own particular piece of writing inspiration for the person who sent the last question, leave it in the comments. I would really appreciate it. I think that they would. And anyone out there who is silently feeling these very same things. Okay? But again, for the time being, I gotta get going. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.